Hey, what's up guys? This is the second video. This is part 2 of the final review for the fall 2021. This is for Algebra 1. So my first video has questions 1 through 10. This one is going to have questions 11 through 20. So let's go ahead and look at question 11. Number 11 says, solve, and we do have an inequality. 6x is less than negative 7x plus 26. Solving inequalities is the same thing as solving equations, but we have to be careful with inequality, especially when we are dividing by a negative number. We have to switch the inequality, so we have to check. We have to be careful with that, with negative numbers. But now, right here in this inequality, we have variables on both sides. So I want to get the x on one side, and I'm going to do the opposite of the smallest x. So this one right here, negative 7, it is the smallest x. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 7x to both sides. That is the opposite. And I'm going to add 7x over here. So when I add, you guys will have 6x plus 7x. That's going to be 13x. You guys bring down the inequality. Notice I didn't switch because I'm not dividing. And it is not negative. So you guys keep the same inequality. Cross this one out, and we have positive 26. Then you guys need to get the x by itself. So I'm going to divide by 13. But again, check your signs. I am dividing by a positive 13, not a negative. So since it's not negative, you're not going to change the inequality. So the inequality stays the same. Notice it is a less than right here. And 13 divided by 13 on the left side, that turns into 1x. And the right side, 26 divided by 13 is 2. So the answer is x is less than 2. Number 12, it says graph the inequality. Again, it says graph the inequality. Now, we are not doing, we're not using the coordinate plane, the x-axis and the y-axis. We are just using the number line, and we are going to use circles, open circle or closed circle, to graph the inequality. So let's go ahead and review what the inequality is. So the inequality, when you guys have less than or greater than, there's no equal sign underneath the inequality, the or equal. That means you guys have an open circle. So I'm going to write that down. Open circle is just a blank circle, you can say. It's just an open circle on top of the number. So I'm going to go to the 4 on top of the 4, and I make an open circle. Then I notice the inequality looks like an arrowhead. It is pointing to the variable. So since the inequality is pointing to the variable, you guys are going to have an arrow going to the left from the open circle all the way to the end of the number line. Now this, guys, it is showing you what are the answers, and it is plural, many answers, numbers, x is a number, less than 4. So we have the 3 on the left side of the 4, the 2, the 1, the 0, and all the negative numbers are less than 4. But keep in mind, when you guys don't have the or equal to, that's going to be an open circle. And if the inequality is pointing to the variable, you guys have the arrow going to the left. Number 13 says, are these two lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? So looking at the slopes of the two lines, we have one on the top. This is one line, y equals 2 over 3x minus 2. And the second line is y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 5. So let's review what are parallel and what are perpendicular lines. What do we know about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular? Parallel means that the two slopes are going to be equal. So the slope of line 1 is equal to the slope of line 2. When you guys are looking for perpendicular, you guys are going to check that the product, so you guys are taking the slope of line 1 times the slope of line 2, it has to equal negative 1. So when this is happening, when you guys are multiplying, remember that to get a negative 1, you guys need to multiply one of the slopes by the opposite reciprocal. You change the sign and you flip the fraction. But we do have the two slopes here. So I'm going to check the slopes of the line. I'm going to go to the first line. This line has a slope of 2 over 3. So I'm going to put here m1 equals 2 over 3. And I'm using 1 because it is line number 1. The second line, I'm going to use M2. M2, it has a slope of negative 2 over 3. Negative 2 over 3. So I'm going to put those slopes side by side so you guys can see the slopes, and we have to figure out if they're parallel or perpendicular. So here are the slopes again. M1 is 2 over 3, and M2 is negative 2 over 3. Well, first of all, they're not the same. Even though they have the same numbers, they're different signs. So these are not equal. They're not parallel. They're not the same. Then, so I know they're not parallel. So I'm going to check if they're perpendicular. Remember, the perpendicular, we need opposite reciprocal to get a negative one. So I'm looking at the signs. This one, it is a positive, and I'm going to put the plus. We don't need it, but I'm going to show you guys this is a positive 2 over 3. So you guys see the plus. This one's a negative. Okay, so the signs are opposite, but look at the fractions. The fractions 2 over 3 and 2 over 3. They are not reciprocal of each other. Reciprocal is when you flip the fraction. So if it was reciprocal, the 3 goes on the top and the 2 goes on the bottom. But that's not the case. Here, they're not opposite reciprocal. They're opposite. Yes, they are. One's positive, one's negative, but they're not reciprocal. So that means they're not perpendicular. So they're not equal, they're not parallel, they're not opposite reciprocal, they're not perpendicular. So these two lines are neither. They are not perpendicular nor parallel. Number 14 says, write an equation of a line in point-slope form that passes through 5, 3 and has a slope of 2. So we need to know what form we're using. Let me just zoom out a little bit right there. The form that we're looking for is the point-slope form. So we need to know what is the point-slope form. So the form, point-slope, is when you have y minus y1 equals the slope m times x minus x1. All we have to do, since they want the point-slope form, we are going to substitute the point and the slope. They say the slope is 2. So slope, I'm going to underline, is 2. And the point, we have x1 and y1. So you guys are going to substitute into that form. So I'm going to bring down the y. This is just a letter, a variable. Minus, and the y1 is positive, so I don't need to use parentheses. I'm just going to put a 3. Equals my slope. Slope is 2, so I'm going to put in a 2 or plug in a 2. Times x minus, and you guys have x1, which is positive. I don't need parentheses. And you guys put the 5 in there. So that's it. The point-slope form is y minus 3 equals 2 times the quantity of x minus 5. We're not going to substitute, we're not going to distribute. We're not going to get y by itself because that is the point-slope form. You stop there. You don't do anything else. 4:15, it says, graph the equation y equals negative 2 over 3x minus 1. The y is by itself. So this one is the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form means we can use the slope and the y-intercept. So when y is by itself, I'm going to look for m. The slope is negative 2 over 3. So I'm going to put negative 2 over 3. And the y-intercept, so let me just draw an arrow so you guys know that's the slope. And the y-intercept is your b value, which is the constant, the number with no variable, the minus 1. So negative 1 is the y-intercept. When you guys start graphing, you will start with the y-intercept, and then you guys are going to make a point, and you're going to find a second point using the slope. So let's go to the negative 1 on the y-axis. That is the y-intercept. So negative 1 is right there. And the slope, notice the slope is negative. Now, if you guys are not sure, well, where does the negative go? Always take the negative to the top. If you guys have a negative next to the fraction, take it to the top. So you guys are going to have negative 2 over 3. Let me rewrite that so you guys can see it a little bit better. m equals negative 2, that's on the top, and then over 3. So when it's negative, from the y-intercept, I'm going to go down to 1, 2, and then I'm going to go to the right 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to make a second point. So my second point is here. You guys can make more points if you want. You don't have to, but I'm going to make one more point. From here, I'm going to do the slope again. I'm going to use the slope again. I go down to 1, 2, and 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3. And I make another point right there. You can also go backwards. From the y-intercept, you can go up to 1, 2, and 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. So that's another way you guys can find more points. How many points do you need? 2. That's sufficient. You guys can use 2 points, and then you guys can connect the points. So this is an equals. Remember that it is an equation. So you guys will make a solid line, just a regular line like this. You guys are going to draw your arrowheads because that's what we need. But on the final, it is a multiple choice. So you guys will have the graphs. You just need to know that they have the correct slope and the correct y-intercept. 16, well, if you guys see the equation 3x minus 2y equals 6, y is not by itself. This, we have the x and the y on the same side and the constants is on the other side. This is the standard form. The standard form is when you guys have the x and the y on the same side. So to use the slope and the y-intercept, I need to get the y by itself so I can find those two components. So I'm going to take the x to the other side. I want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to get the x to the other side. And then I'm going to have to get rid of the negative 2 next to the y. So first, let's move the x. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So I know that 3x are going to cancel. You guys have the negative 2y equals, and these two terms are not like terms. The 6 doesn't have an x. So you're going to put them side by side. You guys will have the negative 3x first and the positive 6. The next step, you guys are going to divide by negative 2. Divide everything by negative 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do it to the other side. So this turns into 1. There's the y. Now over here, guys, I'm looking at the fraction negative 3x over negative 2. They're both negatives. A negative divided by negative will turn into positive. So I have two negatives. Negative and a negative divided by a negative is positive. 3 over 2, you guys cannot simplify 3 over 2. So you just keep it as 3 over 2 x. And then the next one, positive 6 divided by negative 2. That's going to be a negative 3. So now that I have y by itself, I'm going to look for my slope. The slope is the number with the x. So that's 3 over 2. And the y-intercept is your constant. So you guys have the negative 3. So on the y-axis, I'm going to go to negative 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. It's right here. My slope is positive. So I'm going to go 3 up and 2 to the right. Rise over run. So from the y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, and 2 to the right, 1, 2. And you guys make a second point. You guys can make more points. Like I said, guys, you use the slope again to find more points, but 2 is enough. I'm just going to connect the 2 points. Make sure you guys make your arrowheads, and you guys have the graph of the linear equation. Number 17, it says, what is the equation of the line shown in the graph? So we need to understand what the graph is. The graph is the red line going up and down. So this is a vertical line, vertical, and it is going through the negative 2 on the x-axis. One more time. It is going through the negative 2 on the x-axis. So when you guys have a vertical line, your equation, you guys will have an equal sign, your equation will not have a y variable. When you guys have a vertical line, you do not have a y. You're going to have an x. So you guys are going to start writing down the x equals, and then you guys are going to look where is it intersecting the x-axis. So we notice it goes through, it intersects the negative 2. So you guys are going to have x equals negative 2. And I'm going to write down the word vertical so you guys know that when it is vertical, you guys are not going to have a y. You guys are going to have just an x. So that's the equation. That's it. X equals negative 2. For number 18, you guys are graphing an inequality. Not an equation, you guys have an inequality. Y is less than or equal to negative 2 over 5x plus 2. Now, this one is very similar when you guys graph a slope-intercept form. We are going to use the slope and the y-intercept, but the inequality is very important. You guys need to know if the line is going to be solid or dashed. When you guys have an inequality, you need to know if it's solid or dashed. So let me tell you guys, when you have the little line on the bottom, the or equal to, that is a solid line. So I'm going to write that down here before I forget. Solid line is just a regular line you guys have done before. If you guys do not have the or equal to, that's going to be dashed. But right now it's solid. So I'm going to use the slope. So m is the number with the x. We do have a negative, so I'm going to take it to the top of the fraction, negative 2 over 5. So that is my slope. The y-intercept is your constant, which is the positive 2. So I'm going to put b equals positive 2. So you guys are going to go to the positive 2. 1, 2 is right here. Then, using the slope, you go down 2. It is a negative. 2 down, and then 5 to the right. So from the y-intercept, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So I'm going to connect the points and I will make a solid line. Now here's the thing. Also, when you guys have your line, right now I'm using a solid line, we need to shade one side of the graph. So let's go back to the inequality. When the inequality is less than, this is less, you guys have y by itself. And it only works when it's y by itself. The method I'm showing you guys to know what side to graph or to shade. You guys have y by itself and it is less. Less means on the bottom of the y-intercept. So I'm going to shade everything on the bottom. All of this on the bottom of the y-intercept. So your graph, we have a solid line. And it is shaded on the bottom of the line because you guys have the less than or equal to. Or equal to means it's a solid line. Less than means you guys shade on the bottom of the line. Number 19, it says, a line is perpendicular to y equals 3x minus 5. Let me underline the word perpendicular. We already talked about perpendicular and parallel, but this is going back to perpendicular. What is the slope of the perpendicular line? So we are looking for the slope of the perpendicular. So this one, the equation that is given to us, y equals 3x minus 5, y is by itself. So first, I need to know what is the slope of this line. I'm going to say that line is m1, or that slope is m1. So the slope of that line is the number with the x. Okay. So it is 3. Remember, in order to be perpendicular, you guys need to multiply both slopes. I'm going to put here m1 times m2, and it has to equal negative 1, which means we need the opposite reciprocal. The opposite reciprocal, when you guys multiply, is going to give you guys a negative 1. So the slope that I'm looking for m2, is going to be the opposite of this slope. So this is positive. So the opposite is going to be a negative. And I need the reciprocal. Now to find the reciprocal, I need to turn this into a fraction first. So 3, you guys put a 1 under the 3, 3 over 1. That is a fraction. And then I turn the fraction around. I flip the actual fraction. So the 1 goes on the top and the 3 goes on the bottom. So I'm going to have a 1 on the top and a 3 on the bottom. So your slope of the perpendicular line is negative 1 over 3. That's all they want. They just want to know what is the slope of the perpendicular line. Since this one has a slope of 3, which is 3 over 1, The opposite is 1 over 3. If you guys multiply those two fractions, you guys can do that on your own. You will get a -1. And that's the big idea. When you guys multiply the two slopes of perpendicular lines, it has to equal to -1. Number 20, you guys want to solve, and notice that we do have parentheses with an inequality, so we have to be careful with the signs again, and then we have to get x by itself. Same thing as solving an equation, but you guys need to be careful with inequality. So with the parentheses, first I need to distribute. I need to multiply the 4. 4 times x, that's 4x. 4 times 2, that's positive 8. You guys bring down the inequality, and then you guys have the 2x plus 16 on this side. I need to get the x on the same side, so I'm going to do the opposite of the smallest x. You guys subtract 2x from both sides. That is the opposite of the positive 2x. So on this side, we have the 4x minus 2x. That's a positive 2x plus 8 is less than, cross out the x, 16. So we do have the x on one side. That's what we want. The next step, we need to get x by itself. So eliminate the constant that's on the same side of the variable. So we do the opposite, minus 8. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So this cancels. 2x, bring down the inequality, and 16 minus 8 is positive 8. Then you guys are going to divide by 2, both sides. So this turns into 1. So x is less than 4. And notice, I didn't change the inequality because I didn't divide it by a negative. So you stay with the same inequality. That's why you guys have to be careful. If you guys divide by a negative, you need to change the inequality. All right, guys, so this is the conclusion of my second video for the final review. I'm going to do one more. And the next video, the third video, will have questions 21 through 30. And that's going to be the whole final review so you guys can get prepared. Make sure you guys practice. And I'll see you guys later.